So in the studio today, I've got the holy grail for laptops, the Samsung 990 Pro 4TB. This high performance 4TB single-sided SSD will fit in any modern laptop with an 80mm M.2 NVMe slot. So before we look at this drive, I want to explain why it is so special for us laptop owners. For many years, the maximum capacity of a single-sided M.2 drive was 2TB. Now in most modern laptops you get one or maybe two M.2 SSDs. It means you're very limited on the storage you can have in your laptop. If you wanted a drive with a higher capacity, you unfortunately needed to have a double-sided drive, such as this SN850X drive here, and it's got chips on both sides of the drive. Now in a desktop, where there's plenty of space, it's absolutely fine to buy double-sided drives for that higher capacity of storage. There's loads of room around the actual drive itself. But in modern slim laptops, there's often insufficient room for a double-sided SSD where the drive sits very close to the motherboard. Now recently we have started to see single-sided 4TB drives, such as the Crucial P3 Plus and the Lexar NM790 drives. You can see they are single-sided, no chips on the back. So these 4TB drives will fit your laptop. But unfortunately these are only entry or mid-level drives. It means that they're very often DRAM-less, they're running QLC NAND, and they've got a very low write endurance, which is fine for a storage or an actual game loading drive where the loading times on the burst read and write are fine on these drives, but you wouldn't want one of these for your OS drive or for applications that do need a lot of data transfer. So then here comes the Samsung 990 Pro, at last, a high performance single-sided 4TB drive. This drive you can put as a primary drive in your laptop and get decent sustained performance. Now this is rated at 7,500 read and 6,900 writes. We also get an amazing endurance of 2,400 terabytes. We also get 4GB of LPDDR4 RAM on the actual drive itself with that cache, and it's also backed by a 5-year warranty. So finally, this is, as I say, the holy grail for your laptop. Now also Samsung do provide a nice bit of software with this drive as well, the Samsung Magician software, which keeps the firmware up to date on Windows. And they've also got cloning software, which is free of charge, which means you could clone your old laptop drive directly to this Samsung 990 Pro and have it up and running just where you left off. And that's something that's really, really useful on these modern SSDs. So here she is. As you can see, all of the memory chips on the top of the SSD. And as we look to the back, absolutely flat, meaning no problems fitting in any modern laptop. Absolutely perfect. Now for the testing today, I'm going to be installing this into the secondary slot in my Razer Blade 16. Now this is quite a tight slot on a modern laptop. I can just squeeze in this actual Western Digital SN850X for testing. It's not ideal because it does press these chips against the bottom pad, which I don't like, but it'll be fine just to perform these tests. We can also then test both of our other single-sided 4TB drives to see which is not only the fastest drives, but just how hot these drives run in a laptop. Now fortunately on the Razer Blade, it's very easy to install these drives. We're talking just a few T5 screws and the base plate comes right off. Now the interesting thing with the Razer Blade 16 laptop is when you actually put your second drive into this laptop, you do not need to screw a heatsink on top of the SSD. Now heatsinks is something that you do need on these Gen 4 drives, they do run quite warm. But the way the Blade 16 manages the temperatures of these drives is it has a thermal pad on the base of this actual Razer Blade 16. Now when you put that back on to cover this SSD, it presses against it and all the heat from this drive is then dissipated through the bottom of the laptop. So first things first, we wanted to run Crystal Disk Mark with the 5-run test on each of these drives, because not only do we get a good average on the actual performances from the runs, but it actually puts it through quite a torture test on the drive to give us a good average temperature that you're going to see in a heavy-duty environment. Now, in all honesty, you probably won't be hitting those temperatures in your day-to-day use, but I do like to put them through the worst case to see how hot these drives do run. And looking at the results, some clear leads here for the Samsung 990 Pro. This is really impressive. Putting up against the double-sided SN850X, which was our performance champ from the last 6 months, this 990 Pro 4TB actually came ahead of it on the sequential read and write in the Crystal Disk Mark, which is really impressive. But not only that, it came in at only 50 degrees C in the cooling setup on this Razer Blade 16. That is cooler than even our coolest running P3 Plus drive, which runs in at 54 degrees C. That is really impressive for a high performance drive. The Western Digital SN850X has always been on performance drive, but we've always known it to run hot. And in this test, in this Razer Blade 16, that drive hit 70 degrees Celsius. Now looking through the rest of the crystal disc marks on the other drives, you can see quite clearly here that the P3 Plus, which is the cheapest drive out of these 4 tested, came dead last. The Lexar NM790, it's only a few pounds dearer than the actual P3 Plus, but it actually came in a lot faster, but also came in a lot hotter than the P3 Plus. So that may also be a consideration for you if you don't have the greatest cooling in your laptop. So with the synthetic crystal disc mark out of the way, I want to run just a few disc copies on actual both of these drives. The first 22GB copy being a mixture of videos, pictures and files, and the second copy being an actual Call of Duty Modern Warfare 144GB directory, which is the sort of types of files you may be copying from one drive to another. And interestingly, there was actually very little difference between most of these drives. The Samsung 990 Pro 4TB still came slightly ahead of the SN850X, which again is really impressive. And the Lexar also put in a really good score, coming in just behind by just a couple of seconds. Unfortunately, the P3 Plus didn't do so well in the Call of Duty copy test, coming in quite a bit behind. I think it popped out for a coffee mid-run. So what can we say? It is an expensive drive. This drive comes in, depending on where you're looking, maybe $10, £10 more than the SN850X, which is our previous champion, but gives you the added benefit of running incredibly cool in comparison to that SN850X. Single-sided, so will fit in any of your laptops. The SN850X, we've had a lot of problems fitting it into some of our slimmer Ultrabooks or the Alienwares where you get very little room between that motherboard and the drive itself, and you don't want those chips touching the motherboard. So all in all, this has got to be now our new performance champions in our laptop segment. Now, as always, if you're interested in this drive or any of the others, there will be links in the description section down below. And if you do purchase any of the drives, we do get a very small kickback, which does help support the channel. If you've got any questions, put it in the comment section and I will get back to you. And as always, thank you for watching.